as the professional chess player, the 13th world chess champion, and in the last few years, I'm also involved in what we call politics in Russia, so I'm fighting to restore democracy in my country. So I did many other things as well, but probably they are not as important as the first two I mentioned.
I was a bit hesitant because it's not just to be part of another program, so that I thought about a worthy partner for the conversation. Then I just, I spoke to Dasha, and she said, Peter, of course. He is extremely intelligent, very broad area of interests, always wants to make the difference. He is one of the probably most successful entrepreneurs of his generation. He is very aggressively investing. He looks for the future.
We're joined right now by Peter Thiel. He's with Clarion Management. Peter, you have so many different things that you could talk about that I don't even know where to start. You were one of the co-founders of PayPal. You took and cashed out of that, and then you invested in a lot of different internet companies, including being one of the very early investors in Facebook. As an investor, where do you look around the globe? Where do you find the best opportunities?
A lot of themes have been played out. This is the difficult reality. Emerging markets is done, housing is done. Sort of financial derivatives are kind of done. Technology is one that I still like, although in some ways that got pretty exhausted in the 90s boom, and it's going to probably take many years for that to really come back.
Ich kenne ihn schon als Schachweltmeister seit 1984, als ich im Gymnasium Schach spielte. Aber dann habe ich ihn erstmal hier in New York getroffen vor ein paar Jahren. Wir sind Freunde geworden und haben über so vielen verschiedenen Themen gesprochen und Unterhaltungen gehabt. Und ist wirklich ein sehr intelligenter Renaissance-Typ.
We're working on a book with a tentative title, The World of Fake Values, and we're arguing that, contrary to the conventional wisdom, the human race now goes through the slowest development in technologies, because in the last 30 years we have not seen a breakthrough technology at the pace we saw it before. I think during our conversation today we'll be touching this subject because that's what brought us together. The concern about the current state of affairs in economy and in technology.
Peter. Garry. Peter, how are you doing? Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe we should take this.
Sit down.
Yes, sit down. Yes. Dasha made this.
Good.
A little bit of food.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Dasha cannot escape.
Yes. So, what have you been doing?
3 days I was in San Francisco, so it was a Palantir on Google.
What did people at Google think of your technology thesis?
We didn't go that far. We didn't go that far because...
You were nervous to talk to them about the failure of technology.
I was, and actually we stopped short of me just covering this because they had about an hour and 5 minutes.
Yes.
For the whole program. First half an hour it was about, the blue chess, computers, yes. And I concentrated on decision-making and the how life imitates chess, so we were almost there.
Is there a new challenge that can inspire us to create machines that are truly intelligent?
Yeah, because practical chess was solved by a simple increase in brute force of calculation. So there was no need to look for another pass. Just to make intelligent machines. But I believe that chess is a unique playing field to look for the combination of the machine's power and a human's abilities. So it's like to solve the Moravec paradox. So because it's exactly what happens. We are good at something that machines are bad at, and vice versa.
Well, it was the case at PayPal that we found that you needed this human-computer combination to solve the fraud problems. And this is sort of And so I think it has been very underexplored as an approach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just the example I brought to Google Earth is it was very natural. So why not to maximize the effect of the search by adding a tiny element of human not intuition but visualization. Great reservations.
The Google ideology is that computers will replace humans in the next 20 years, 30 years.
It's a bit odd because certain things you can do very quickly. Yeah, if you accept that, man plus machine, is a solution.
Anybody in the technology industry finds it very hard to talk about the failure of technology because the question of technology is this incredibly important question for our whole civilization. Everything has been predicated and geared towards ever-improving technology. The credit crisis, credit worked as long as the future would be better, and you could borrow money against the future. If the future was better, you could pay it off. And so our whole civilization is implicitly based on technology, and to question technology is probably the most sacred of the taboos. And of course, you can speak about the chess thing. In some ways, you would be used as the exhibit of, see, if even the smartest person in the world could be beaten by computers at chess, then computers will surely beat people at everything.
But Google is quite powerful to have their own view.
Yes, yes, good.
So, and now we have a chance to look at the Columbia lab, yeah?
Very cool. Is that the next stop is the
next
robotics
stop will
lab?
Be there, yes, robotics lab, so we can continue our conversation.
There is sort of this worry that even though you have a lot of talented people, the people who are the most successful in science are actually the politicians.
Oh, yeah.
And that, it is the politicians that are running the research budgets and that are running the universities. Well, people don't ask what the money is being spent on.
Oh, yeah. Now they don't want to answer because they know question. They don't want to answer.
I was talking to a senior official in the Obama administration, and one of the people asked him, so if you were able to just decide what to do, what would you spend the money? What sorts of projects would you do? What would you be doing? And the answer was, well, Obama's not really socialist. He doesn't have any ideas like that. He doesn't, and it's not. There's nothing specific, substantive that people want to spend the money on. People really don't know what to do.
Nobody wants to say no to free money. Yeah?
Go up.
Two. We get in.
What are you optimistic about?
Not very much. Probably I'm optimistic. I guess I should be optimistic about our chances to.
About the prospects of the book.
No, just to convince people that they have to look for, for new ideas, fresh ideas.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our lab.
Okay. Hello. Hello.
Welcome to the robotics lab at Columbia University.
Hi.
I'm Austin.
Hi. Peter Thiel.
Peter, nice
Hi.
to meet you. So
the chess set is what is just to. It's like.
So we have the
welcome,
robot
yes?
saying hi to you.
Yes, hi to us.
But this is actually some of the newer stuff. I thought maybe I'd give you a little bit of the older stuff first. That we used to do.
When you say older, you mean what?
Back early 90s, maybe even
early
late
90s.
80s.
That's old.
You're gonna see an ancient robot here.
Yeah, ancient robots, early 90s.
It might look like a little Mars rover to you, and you could take the camera, and if you drive the robot around, just using vision alone, you can sort of figure out how it's moving, and sort of map the environment. And it can move autonomously. It can avoid obstacles and stuff like that. I could put a little object in front of it, and it'll just try and keep a distance from the object. This robot's called the Avenue. So it has a GPS, and it has one of these 360-degree camera. So you see this guy's
It's
playing
moving,
around.
yes.
So he'll just play around for a little bit. So this is a little bit some of the older research. Some of the newer stuff is dealing with the robotic hands.
One of the main features about this hand is it only has one motor per finger, as opposed to having a motor at every joint. So we don't get as fine a control over the hand as we might otherwise, but it's a lot simpler to build and to control.
But this is still, it's still very much product of the labs. So you don't see it, in our ordinary life. So there's not much progress in the last 40 years.
In the last, well...
No, again, that's a provocative question. Yeah, just in terms of applications.
In terms of applications, you can do things now that would have taken you months to do before in an afternoon. It's the same as computers were in labs in the 60s, and it took basically 40 years to become a thing you needed at home.
We're far away from telling your robot to go get you the paper, and it's, just all the little things that we could do so easily.
When do we have a Jetsons type robot? What's your over-under estimate? What year? What year? Is it 2020, 2030, 2100?
I would say by 2050 you'll have something that's not as capable as Rosie, but it can at least get around.
My question was, as capable as Rosie on the Jetsons?
Rosie had AI. Rosie had emotions. Rosie got lonely. I don't know that you want a robot that gets lonely in your house. That's a little bit scary.
Realistically, the robotic cars, right? Like the DARPA Grand Challenge, if you're familiar with that, and Google recently admitted that. Like, I think that's within probably 10 years at least. I mean, and that's impressive.
So.
There's nothing about technology that automatically cuts in one direction or another. It's generally been on the side of freedom, but it can also be used very much the other way. And this is, I think, one of the reasons we should not be simply utopian about technology. It is critical for us to be using the technology, for us to be the first ones to use it, and for us to be using it now. Thank you very much.
If you look at the most of the modern technologies now, like GPS or internet, they're all were byproducts of the space race. I mean, byproducts. Internet was, ARPANET was just, a side project for DARPA.
The effect you've had on our lives, I mean, can you remember a time without a cell phone or without Googling?
Yeah, but cell phone, but still,
changed everything.
Yes, but cell phone, the first telephone call in this country was registered in 1973. Okay, people believe that a new, iPhone or iPad, it's a great technology, which is, okay, it's, what your new computer cannot do, can do that computers 25 years couldn't do. I mean, speed, but...
Right.
You mean like influence people's life more thoroughly, more deeply?
Yeah, more deeply. Again, this is horizontal. It's not vertical. We are still behind because you look at the science fiction of the 50s, and the 60s, by 2010, I mean, robots would be everywhere.
Yeah.
In 1927, Charles Lindbergh across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Now, 42 years, 1927, 1969, Boeing 747. Another 42 years, 69, 2011, same planes.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I mean.
Push the frontiers.
Well, that's the thing. One day you'll just wake up and there'll be a cure for cancer, and
Yeah, but by the way, what U.S. It's a good trivia question. What U.S. president declared war on cancer to be won in 5 years?
Either Reagan or Nixon.
No, Nixon, 1971. Now, did we make much success in 40 years?
Well, the scientists.
But that's a question.
Do we make much? We made
we made a lot of, but still, we just definitely were.
We are 39 years closer to defeating cancer by definition. On the other hand, it would be nobody today would ever dare say, it would be inconceivable for Obama or any president to get on TV today and say, we'll defeat cancer in 5 years. People no longer believe in something like that. It would be, you would look insane if you were to do that.
Sure.
Cool. Long discussion.
Cool. Let's make a picture.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Let's move.
It was awesome.
Hope you guys have fun.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks.
See, it's another proof, it's generational. They have no problem of accepting the philosophy.
Right.
Because they're young. They're not responsible.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, one interesting question on the computer chess thing is, even though they've gotten somewhat better than humans, there's a question whether they're still improving dramatically, or whether that process has sort of.
No, Rybka is a phenomenal improvement.
Is it really?
Yeah, Rybka is really good. Really good.
People typically think of the computers getting better at chess as being symbolic of computers getting better at everything.
No, chess has the ultimate sign of wisdom, so just or intellect.
Yes.
So that's why chess could be an ideal playground to measure computers' progress.
Yes.
Because there's a result. So
yes.
Computer wins. Computer is great.
Right. Right.
And I think it's very much perception. So chess stood for generations, for decades, maybe even for centuries, as an ultimate test for intellect.
Well, you know, chess is still very big. This is the thing. It's still anything bigger than ever.
If you add internet, it's what 1.5 million games a day played on internet.
Garry Kasparov, Frank Brady, president of the club. Mr. Thiel. Hey, welcome to the Marshall Chess Club. Come in.
Actually, I don't think I've ever been here, yeah?
I don't think you ever have.
Yeah, I was in Manhattan Club.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Well,
in 88 when I first time arrived in America.
We've been here since 1931. I'll show you around.
We're still here.
We're still here. We own the building.
Okay, so that's better than Manhattan, yes?
Yes. So I'll show you the famous board that
Peter, we should look at the famous boards.
When Bobby played by teletype,
yes.
It was Bobby, myself, in that back room.
Yeah.
And then we had.
So in '65 in Havana, yes.
Exactly.
In Havana.
And I remember.
So Fisher, he used this board.
He used this board. Mr. Thiel, are you a chess player?
I play some chess. Yes.
You do?
Although I
20s, what do we?
2300.
Could I ask you to play?
No.
Just come on. Just a little bit.
No, maybe you should play him. Maybe I'll be a referee. Maybe you should play.
You want to play? Quickly.
What is your rating?
I'm a Class B player.
Class B player. Peter, you should probably play. And I'm rooting for you.
Okay.
Rooting for you.
This is a casual game.
Okay.
Oh, he knows how to play.
Peter.
Triple points. I'm embarrassed playing this game in front of you.
I don't make comments.
I'm totally embarrassed.
Yes.
I'm embarrassed as well.
Okay.
No draw. No draw.
No.
Peter,
Okay.
This is blackmail.
Okay.
Wow.
Give us some feedback.
Terrible opening on my part.
Yeah, opening was terrible.
Was it winning at the end?
Black had a very decent position, so I think it was very decent, and yeah, could have played queen e5. I don't know. I'm probably still taking the pawn.
Really? If I take the pawn.
Yeah, I know, but.
And he takes the.
Yeah, there's still no immediate threat.
Yeah.
And then you can start attacking this pawn, with queen, because now this pawn is protected, so he could have started, coming back, protecting this, and I don't like it. So and then the last key moment was when you just sacrificed it. So what I would, you played rook f2, and you played queen b6.
Yes.
You could have played, at one point you have to play queen c1.
Yeah.
This position was quite drawish probably. You have to give check and come back. I think it should be a draw, eventually draw. So as you play this, and then you could have exchanged queens, but
is that a drawn endgame?
What, this one?
Yeah.
How? No, but you just have a pawn.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured.
Just because you have 2 pawns.
Yeah.
No. This is a queen d1 was the final.
Well, I was no Bobby Fischer, but you were a Capablanca.
Okay, yeah. It was a decent game. Yes. So see, that's a lot of talent now moved out of chess. Wow, this is. You met Peter.
I have.
Hi, not sure we met.
Not sure we've met. Maurice Ashley.
Hi, great meeting you.
This is the famous Maurice Ashley.
Wow, not as famous as you guys.
No, here is just best chess promoter.
Wow, I try. I think you have that on everybody. So.
Okay.
Maurice has just recently been combining chess and football, however.
How did you know about that? Oh, yeah, of course.
Hey, I'm the president of Marshall Chess Club.
No. At the New York Jet Stadium. They have
simul?
We do a simul on the plaza in the Meadowlands. Yeah.
So how many boards?
Oh,
not a world record?
No, we're not trying for a world record. These people are coming in, they're screaming, their fans already been drinking a little bit, and it's, we're going to watch the Jets, and then they see a chessboard, and okay, I'll play some chess, and they sit down, and then we just play them in a simul.
Surprise, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get to play all of them, and I trash talk them, like, I'm from Brooklyn, so I have to talk.
Trash talk.
So I trash talk them the whole time. And if I win a queen, my favorite thing is...
Attracted more players,
My favorite thing is when I take their queen for free, I show it to them, and I throw it up in the air, catch it, and I put it in my pocket.
Very good.
And they're all sitting there like...
Where's my queen?
So that's my favorite thing. Then I don't give it back for a while. So how's things? What about the World Championship cycle today?
You saw it, Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus has dropped out?
Magnus has dropped out. Did you have something to do with it?
No.
You used to do these things a long time ago.
No, I confess.
Do you know anything about what happened? Or?
No, I know what's happened. He asked FIDE to come up with the fixed contract for all the matches and the World Championship match, the final World Championship match, 6 months before the beginning of the cycle.
Do you think FIDE will ever get...
Not in its current form.
Leading question.
We need a guy like you to take over.
Yeah.
Are you a chess player though?
I play chess.
Just beat me.
What?
He was 2350 when he played.
2300?
Up to about 2300.
Wow.
85. So come on.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a talent. That's why he's hiring chess players.
So you're still a fan? Do you still follow it?
Still very big fan. Yes. It's very addictive.
Peter just told me the story that when they had the IPO for PayPal, so he did a simul for 10 employees of PayPal.
There's a whole picture on the internet with the doing the simul there.
Have you had a chance to play this guy yet?
I don't want him to think that my IQ is being unusually low. So
he does that to everybody.
When I play stronger players, the most common, the sort of predictable failure mode is sort of where it's sort of like this gradual thing, and you can sort of see it coming, but there's not much you can do, and you just sort of get overwhelmed. It's like, it's sort of this quasi...
Well, it depends on the strength of the player.
But yeah, whereas I think the games where I feel I have like the most chances tend to be ones where it's sort of like this...
Sharp exchange.
It's sort of very sharp because then sometimes there's a miscalculation and you can. Yeah, so probably safest one for a better player against a weaker player?
But that's the...
it depends on the style.
I have almost impeccable record in the simultaneous exhibitions. The last game I lost was in 2001 in Faroe Islands. Yeah, and I won most, I mean, just many simultaneous, I won all the games, or nearly all.
How many do you play typically? 10 or?
No, it's 20 to 30.
Wow.
Yes, 20 to 30, and
is there any sort of style used for the simultaneous typically?
I always try to keep things, you know, as you described, you know.
Right.
Just to with strong players. I mean, when you have some relatively decent players, you know, with 1800, 1900 or 2000 plus, you don't want to really push. So you want to make sure that, you know, you gradually apply pressure.
And then something breaks.
And they collapse eventually. It's my experience that if you have stamina to walk around and just to keep pressure long enough, they collapse.
Empire State Building. I guess this is the tallest building in New York at this point.
Yeah. By the way, it was built
31?
33 years.
33.
Welcome and enjoy the view.
Bienvenue et profitez de la vue.
Bienvenido y que disfrute de las vistas.
Wow, I remember being up here once before when I was 6 years old in 1974. We were visiting New York for one day. All right, it's cold.
It's cold.
We'll go back inside.
Excuse me, guys. Steps, please. Come all the way down, guys.
Thanks. You know, the World Trade Center thing, that is actually, another striking thing, that it's been 9 years and it's not been rebuilt.
No.
Right? If you had sort of like a shocking sense of where there's a failure. Because that's like, you know, it's like the fact that the World Trade Center was destroyed is bad.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's a much bigger failure that they couldn't rebuild it in 9 years.
They haven't started.
I think they're getting started now.
Started, yeah? Okay. Over there, yeah?
All right, we'll follow. Any good news out of Russia, or is it still anything? Nothing feels like no big change.
No, look, Putin now is vulnerable because there's this sort of the internal conflict. It's not just Medvedev, as it's more of, you know, the corporate rejection, because he's too unpredictable, crazy, and they're looking for some kind of stability and predictability. So and definitely Putin, I mean, it looks increasingly volatile.
Who is the opposition in Russia at this point?
No, there's the internal fight,
right,
which is very much on the surface, but you could see some splashes.
Right.
The opposition, no, it's...
Was there anything significant about the whole mayor of Moscow?
No, the only significance is that the system cannot function, you know, cannot stay intact as before.
Do young people, are they just trying to get out of Russia, or what is that?
Massive.
Anybody who can get out tries to get out.
It's clear. It's immigration.
And where are they trying to go? All over the world?
Anywhere. And that's why we have the growing number of immigrants in Russia from Central Asia, and it creates, you know, very negative political mood.
Right.
Because you have a lot of people, a lot of Russians who are upset.
Right.
But it's a general degradation of the country. Where is our friend? Oh yeah, supposedly here. Here?
Oh,
wow.
Goodness.
Hey.
How are you guys? Peter, nice to see you. Great, great.
Hi.
How's the observation deck? You got up without a problem?
Windy.
Can you believe that I've been here for 7 years and I have not once been to the observation deck? I actually thought to myself, maybe I should go with you guys. But I figured, why break the streak of never going to the observation deck? Yeah. So welcome to our office. This is great. It's the first time you're here. The last time you and I met to do the human rights thing, I came to you. It was a different office. It was a very small operation. We're still somewhat small, but we're growing. So
two world forums already. Yes.
Yes. Our work is not done in these walls. Our work is done outside of these walls. We want to get the message out, distribute this message. But I'd like to invite you to continue to be part of this community and to always remember what motivates you to care about this is noble purpose. You are all, as far as I'm concerned, heroes and ennobled both by being here, by paying attention, and by not being indifferent. As far as, are things getting worse? Yeah, overall they're getting much worse. And they're getting much worse because the human rights groups are not doing their job. We created this human rights group because there is a vacuum.
Yeah, but I think there's also no genuine desire among Western powers to interfere. It's very cheap to cut a deal with African dictators or with China or with Russia or with Chavez. Why to interfere?
But most of these countries are interested in following what the goal of the country is. The objective is their wealth. The objective is their national security. They really don't care much about what's going on in some of these other countries. So it's I think, incumbent on people who believe in freedom to help the people in those countries that need help. And due to politics, so many times it becomes about attacking certain countries. So the US, for instance, Israel, for instance, some European countries receive an inordinate amount of monitoring about their human rights crisis, while there are countries in Africa that have had leaders for 30, 40 years and nobody says anything.
Yeah. I would say Zimbabwe is an example for things being very correlated between human rights and economics. They had the hyperinflation added 38 zeros, 10 to the 38th became 1.
In Chavez's case, it was only 3 zeros. He eliminated 3 zeros from the currency. He said this was a move for strengthening the currency, and now the currency is not the Bolivar, it's now the Bolivar fuerte, so now it's the strong Bolivar. So eliminate a few zeros, and now it's the strong one. So why don't we come into my office, we'll be able to sit down.
Okay. Peter, go ahead.
What's here on the table is actually something I'm doing for you, Gary, because the first time I met you, you did not know what I drank coffee-wise. And so you had for me every single coffee imaginable. There is one of everything here. And this is the way I repay you. Now, of course, I have to figure out which one is which because nobody gave me a sign. Okay. Yes. So would you like to have one of these, Peter?
I'll just...
You want just to take a chance.
Just take extraordinary risks. Has the UN gotten better or worse over the years or just been ineffective all the way through?
It depends, how do you measure success? If you look at the ratio of cost and return, it's horrible.
Someone the other day was defending the actions of the United Nations and the cost of the United Nations, saying, do you have any idea how difficult it is to run an operation in dozens of languages? To which my response was, yeah, like Sheraton or Hilton or Marriott. Yeah. If they can do it and turn a profit, how is it that the UN is incapable of getting almost anything done properly? Well, they promised.
Well, people no longer really believe in the UN in a way they still did 20 years ago, where it was still sort of iconic as this thing that people believed in, even though there was complaints about it being bureaucratic. It seems like
I think a lot of people still see the UN as something that is absolutely essential, really vital, really important, and it means well, so we're willing to accept anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not probably not a dream, but you can't live without that.
But unfortunately, that's not the case, because they've set up to prevent another Holocaust from occurring, and since then we've seen half dozen Holocausts, if not more.
Yeah.
So they never again going from Rwanda to Darfur to Cambodia. It just keeps repeating, and the UN is absolutely useless.
It was case of Bosnia, even in Europe. Globalization actually brought a very powerful weapon of this.
That's very interesting. Yes.
To the dictatorship based on natural resources. Chavez doesn't need, any intellect in the country. He has oil. He can buy whatever he needs.
Do you know who he buys from? Sun Microsystems.
But it doesn't matter. No, just say that he can buy. Same Putin, or Iran or Libya. They can actually, they can conserve the political systems because they don't have this, this vibrant element which always cause, some kind of problem for dictators.
Right. So what do we do?
Well, you have to. I think that if you
shout loud.
Shout loud.
What else we can do?
Well, the technology that I think really would help things is if you could solve resource problems, because that would, if you could break the monopoly of all the resource dictatorships, solve the energy problem, solve the other resource problems through technological means, that probably would shift tremendous amounts of power towards economically and politically free countries.
Yeah. So you have to give incentives for all countries to become more, advanced technologically, which means they have to sort of grow up with their own intelligentsia.
But that's tied up.
I used to in the 1990s. I was extremely optimistic about computer technology, transforming it, where if you simply made things transparent, it would change things. And I still am mildly positive on that. But I think there are all these ways in which the technology can also be used by governments to stop people. So you had the whole Iranian elections in 2009, where on the one hand there was Twitter was going to be used to organize all the people, but then it turned out the government used Twitter to track all the people down, and so bang bang beat tweet tweet, in effect. Still,
which is why you need to be 2 steps ahead.
There probably are a whole number of countries where there's just no transparency into what's going on at all, and so you don't know about it. So there's probably parts of Africa that were just
we don't have
Equatorial Guinea.
In terms of no access, no internet access, no technology whatsoever, totally pitch black, it's Burma and North Korea. And it's sad because human rights is a field that has become so boring and so bureaucratized that it doesn't appeal to the young. It appeals mostly to people in suits that give speeches at the UN. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do here in terms of changing some of that and bringing people like you involved, and involving people like you. And it makes such a difference that people bring from their own fields, like you bring technology, all of that you bring in. I mean, you bring, the brain that defeated the IBM computer. As far as I'm concerned, these are vital elements for what we're doing. And I do believe you defeated it, by the way. Because I think cheating doesn't count,
It's a human. There was a case of violation of my human rights, yes.
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 Maybe we can call the UN. Maybe we can call the UN.
Yes.
One of the things I find so depressing about this topic is that so many places have just stayed disasters for such long periods of time. And when you have things that are corrupt or where human rights don't exist, there are cases where it changes, but it is not easy, and it's very, very hard. And there are relatively few examples of where things have gotten, dramatically better. Haiti's been a disaster since it was independent in the early 19th century.
Well, it's also a certain racism to it, which is the racism of low expectations. We expect Haiti to be a disaster, so nobody holds them to account, and nobody puts a certain level of real expectations. Meet these or else. And their governments are just there to take and take. They all want to follow Duvalier's, having palaces in the south of France. Kind of reminds me of Mobutu.
Yeah.
This is a nasty business. It's not a very happy one. And the sad part is any country can go from being a thriving democracy to be a thriving liberal democracy to being a dictatorship in the space of 10 years. Because obviously democratic doesn't necessarily mean rule.
Democratic means nothing, actually. In modern days, it's just it's a word. It's a mere word that often covers up, the worst atrocities.
I wanted to show you something. This is a skateboard. So there's one for every part of the Declaration, the Universal Declaration, the good parts. And it's our way of trying to be cool with this. A friend of mine runs Amnesty in Norway, and he's the one that developed these. So this is the one for China. So I figure, as a gift, I'd give you the China skateboard, and you can have the Russia skateboard.
Why is China for him?
Why is China for him? Because, well, Russia's for you.
Yes.
Each country has a different chapter.
What you need to do is add wheels if you actually want to use it. But
it's more.
A lot of
how many countries do they have on this?
They have 20 so far. They have Iran. They have, but you know, on my trips to Norway, I'm not going to bring back 20 boards of wood. Yeah. It's a little much.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the visit.
I'll call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Good stuff. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Have a great dinner.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Very good, thanks. How does this all end this time around? How do you think the sort of, you know, you have these incredible concentrations of wealth that have been acquired by dubious means in many cases. How does this really end?
That's a very good question.
You know, it's
do you see an optimistic scenario?
Well, I see four sort of crazy pessimistic scenarios. You know,
but that's what I'm asking. You know, do you see any optimistic scenario?
The optimistic scenario is that you have enormous growth in the world and you have technological progress. That's the optimistic scenario.
Fine. Okay, that's
the optimistic. That's the only optimistic scenario.
Okay, let's wait for Martians to save us. That's more realistic than one you described.
Well. I will. But then the four scenarios, you have a worldwide depression where it all gets destroyed, but people are going to try to stop that by printing money. Secondly,
that's what's happening now.
That's sort of what's happening now. So you have this chronic recession. It doesn't quite go into a catastrophic depression. The second thing is you have a world war, but people will do a lot to try to prevent that because of nuclear weapons and the technology is so destructive. And then the third one is that you have sort of this move to the left, and governments confiscate the wealth. And the thing that's tricky about that is that at this point the money's been moved globally, so you'd have to sort of confiscate it everywhere. People have sort of diversified very well.
The first one is the most realistic, until it goes into, until you can't print any more money. So because I think eventually. Just the only way out is to work with sound money. If money doesn't have any value, so the whole system doesn't work.
Yes.
Up the stairs.
There is a moment for something libertarian, for classical liberalism to somehow come back.
Absolutely.
That moment exists, even though we haven't had anything like this for a long time, and it's been sort of you've had elements of it, but.
I want to have a mixture of some theory and some kind of ideological background, and the analysis of current affairs. You have to go back to sound money. You have to go back to the roots. That's not to the old good days, but to the roots. Unlike in the years of the Cold War, there's a sense of inevitability. Look at Warren Buffett. The 19th century, the year of Great Britain. The 20th century year of the United States, 21st will be China. I mean, just Warren Buffett telling people that's it, nice, and invest accordingly. So,
yes,
you have the richest man in this country predicting its fall.
The other thing I think is sort of problematic, at least about Buffett, is that he's become the richest man in America by avoiding technology altogether, and so it's always. It's always technology.
And being proud
sort
of that. Being proud of it.
Not doing. So, would you rather invest in a spaceship company that goes to Mars, or would you rather invest in a Mars candy bar? And in the year 2200, when people
live on Mars, they'll still be eating Mars candy bars. Spaceship companies will come and go, so you only invest in candy bars. And there's a way in which it doesn't work for the whole thing. And that's the aspect of Buffett that seems very, very fake to me, is even if he personally can do it, it doesn't work. You can't have a country in which everybody's Warren Buffett.
It's America is doomed. China is next. Invest accordingly. That's the message.
My view on it is that regardless of what happens between the U.S. and China, as an American, I feel you can only do something here in the U.S. Or there are other countries maybe too, but it's. I think China is not a place you can actually make money, and it's been very. There've been very few.
Yeah, a lot of people. I know a lot of people who disagree with you. Yes, but I'm not among them. Say America goes bust, China goes bust automatically. Just China goes bust. America is badly hurt, but not goes bust.
Right.
So that shows there still is imbalance.
Right. Have you spoken to any people in the Obama administration about the technology thesis, or do you have any?
They are too busy with rebuilding relations with Putin and Medvedev and ending this administration.
Why do you think it's been so disappointing? Or?
I don't know. It just has. I think it has been, and I also think it's Obama. He's just community organizer. He's not a leader. He can deliver a great speech. I don't think he can govern.
My sense is they are not focused on a lot of the most important problems, and so.
But that means they cannot identify important things. It's about managing.
The Obama inaugural speech, he basically said that it's not about big government or small government, but it's about whether government is efficient or not efficient. And I think that's actually, there's a lot of truth to that. And if you define technology is doing more with less. And instead you have this debate about you do more with more, which is the stimulus printing money approach, or you do less with less, which is the austerity sort of, Angela Merkel in Germany and the Cameron government in Britain approach.
Yeah, but this administration, I think it doesn't share the same concept, more with less.
Thank you very much. My most pessimistic views are probably about how the nuclear weapons are still slowly proliferating, generally contained, but slowly more and more countries are getting the technology. And if you had even a single nuclear weapon go off at this point, I think it would change things tremendously for the worse. It probably gets very underestimated until it actually happens.
We are dealing with countries that do not share the same values of human life. For us to lose, one soldier is really a problem. For American president to leave a few hundred soldiers, that might be.
The Bin Laden line was, "We will win because we value death more than you value life."
So
let's concede there's something very problematic about globalization because it enables transfer of bad technologies. It enables governments to, in a sense, outsource the functioning parts of their societies to other societies and keep control locally, or something like that. What does one do about it?
Technology. They have the money from natural resources because they do nothing else. You downsize the importance of this element of the economy.
So it's the energy alternative, natural resource alternative. That's item number one.
Yep.
You cut off the money.
That's the only way democracy could beat dictatorships. Eventually, that's how America beat Soviet Union. Progress.
Well, this is why the technology issues again are so important in ways that are not just economic, but also
it has political angle.
And you find yourself to be fairly pessimistic on a lot of sort of day-to-day type things, or relatively pessimistic. What sort of keeps you going? If you were completely pessimistic, at some point people would just give up.
No, but it's against my nature. So I'm optimist by nature, and I still believe that this world has a purpose.
We are at a point where, not a majority by any means, but there are increasing numbers of people who are asking very hard questions about what's gone wrong in our society. And that seems to me is an important first step towards fixing it. It may not be enough, but it is probably a necessary first step.
Yeah, a lot of people will keep asking questions, and there will be very few to provide answers. Okay, go there.
All right,
okay.
Go here. Awesome. All right,
okay,
Garry,
thank
this was
you
very fun.
Yes, yes,
we'll talk.
Yeah, a lot of,
see you later.
Yes,
Take care.
Bye.